Everyone. Today I'm going to continue on with my discussions of recent Blu-ray releases from February 2023. In this case, it's a 4K Ultra HD release from Sony. Came out a few days ago, The Remains of the Day. Before I start talking about the movie, I have to mention a bit about the picture quality. I don't often do that, but the DolbyVision here is eye-poppingly astonishing. I mean, it's just amazing looking film. I have untutored eyes, but thus far the early returns from the picture quality scientific community is giving an enthusiastic thumbs up. It's really reference quality, maybe the best looking 4K I've seen yet. It's a movie well suited for this format because it's filmed in several historical mansions, and some of the landscapes, outdoor scenes are just fantastic, both indoors and outdoors. This is just a beautiful looking film, and pointing out that we're living in a golden age of film history. I would have never imagined 50 years ago, maybe even 25 years ago, that I would that we would see such amazing films in such amazing formats. I'm glad I lived long enough to experience this golden age, and it really is that, you know. And I think we're too close to it to really appreciate it sometimes. So, The Remains of the Day is based on a Booker Prize-winning novel by Kazuo Ishiguro, which I reread a few days ago. Great novel, it is a Merchant Ivory film, and Merchant Ivory is sort of like evokes a whole world of cinema, of historical recreation, of adaptations of famous novels. And Israel Merchant is the producer, James Ivory the director. The screenwriter is Ruth Power Javala, a novelist who wrote almost all of the Merchant Ivory movies. It's the third in a trio of films that were big critical and commercial successes. Room with a View, Howard's End, and Remains of the Day, which garnered 7 Academy Award nominations, although it didn't win. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress. And it is a story that involves a butler by the name of Stevens. We're in 2 different time periods, the 1930s, late 1930s, and then again in 1956, although the film actually opens in 1956. Stevens is the butler of Darlington Hall, and this is a massive estate that is the site of top secret international conferences in which foreign diplomats come to discuss and debate, but basically to come to the conclusion that Hitler is doing something good for Germany, and we need to appease him, and that Stevens' employer, Lord Darlington, is the German file, but some of these aristocrats that come to meet, because there's foreign ministers and many English aristocrats coming to meet at these conferences. Some of them are ardent admirers of fascism, of Adolf Hitler. They would like to have that type of society, that type of organization, political organization for England itself. But Lord Darlington is really a more sympathetic figure. He becomes a very pathetic figure because he has all of the good intentions. He's a very esteemed man in England. He's a fictional character, and he's not Lord Oswald Mosley, who was an ardent Hitler lover and spread the German propaganda and eventually was imprisoned. There's characters, he's not mentioned in the movie, but there are characters that seem to be modeled on him both in the novel and in the movie. So Lord Darlington's is sympathetic because of the Versailles Treaty. Germany was sort of under the thumb of the world. They were not allowed to revive and reconstruct their economy. They're in economic chaos. And Lord Darlington has a personal interest as well, as he had German friends who were very much affected by this economic collapse. But he goes along with the ideology that is being discussed and sort of confirmed by these conferences. Now, Christopher Reeve plays a American congressman very close to President Roosevelt. He attends one of these conferences, and he tries to warn them. You know, you're well-intentioned people, especially Lord Darlington, but you don't know what you're doing. You know, Hitler is an evil. And then, so this is in the 1930s. By the 1956 events of the film, Lord Darlington has died, and this American Christopher Reeve buys Darlington Hall and maintains Stevens as his butler. Now, Emma Thompson plays the housekeeper in this hierarchy of, this is in the 1930s, in this hierarchy of downstairs, the household staff. They're sort of equal. She can talk to him. You know, she can disagree. She can make suggestions, and they develop a relationship. But the problem is that Stevens, the Anthony Hopkins character, is totally devoted to the idea of being the greatest butler there can be, which involves emotional constraint, which involves developing a sense of dignity, of never letting your emotions show. But he's a good person, and Miss Kenton sees that and admires him, and wants to penetrate this shield that Stevens has surrounded himself with. They get along pretty good. She tries to tease him. She tries to make him mad, some way to penetrate this emotional distance that he sort of insists on, even if every night they meet together at the end of the day and share cocoa and talk about the day's events. But it's always at a kind of superficial level. And there is one scene that's probably the best scene in the film. Most people would probably agree, where she tries to see what Stevens has been reading. He doesn't want her to see it. They get close together. She tries to pry the book out of her hand, and you can feel the attraction that Stephen feels for her, but he is incapable of showing this emotional attachment that he has developed for her. And so it's a kind of erotic scene, even though they never really touch at all. So we have this political dimension to the film, very much historically accurate, unfortunately, and a political class structure, and we have this emotional element to the film as well, which makes the film in the 1950s very melancholy. So the film opens in 1956 as Stevens is motoring through the English countryside to Cornwall, where he is going to meet Miss Kenton. They have not seen each other for 20 years. She left in the late 1930s, and she has written him a letter. First letter, they exchanged Christmas cards, but this is the first letter he has received, and there's an intimation in the letter that she might now be ready to return to service, and so he's hoping that he can bring her back to Darlington Hall, because it's a very decreased staff in the 1950s. There's no great events going on anymore, but he could really use the help, both as far as the household goes, but also probably as far as his emotional needs go. So, so the movie has this very melancholy tone of what you do with the remains of your day. What's the remains of the day? If one person's life can be compared to a day, and now your night is falling, what do you do with the remains of your day? For me, being retired, this is a big question in my life. And for some reason, I've met this challenge by deciding to babble on about movies on YouTube, which I have found very fulfilling to do. But the film the film version of the novel is very faithful. I mean, it's a literal interpretation of the book. Everything that's in the film is in the book. They certainly had to cut a few things out, and in a way that is so faithful. In the criticism of Merchant Ivory is that they're too faithful, and they don't. You know, they stick so close to the book that they don't develop their own outlook on these books and these adaptations. As beautiful as they are and as well acted as they are, for sure. There was an earlier, when this film was in production, there was an earlier producing team. Mike Nichols was going to produce and direct. He actually has a producer credit here on the film, but he was making that Wolf film with Jack Nicholson. There wasn't time. The studio had a timetable when shooting would begin, so they brought Merchant Ivory into it. It's absolutely a perfect type project for Merchant Ivory, but Nichols' version had a screenplay by Harold Pinter, which Nichols describes as frightening and funny. And Javala evidently changed quite a bit of Pinter's screenplay. Now, he always was faithful to the novels that he was adopting, but he would, unlike Merchant Ivory, kind of put his own personal stamp on the film, on his screenplays. And he didn't take the credit. He could have had a credit on his name on the credits, but he didn't want it because I guess he didn't like the changes that Javala had made to his original screenplay. Now, in the supplements, there's nothing new in the supplements. In fact, there's 3 featurettes that go all the way back to 1993 when the film was released, sort of publicity type featurettes that are nevertheless very good. And then there's a commentary. Now, the commentary is touted as with James Ivory, and he indeed is in the commentary along with Ismail Merchant, but it's dominated and luckily so, fortunately so, is by Emma Thompson, and because she's very lively. She wants to talk. The two men are a little bit reticent about talking about the film, although they eventually do get into the spirit of it. And she had appeared with Hopkins in the previous Merchant Ivory production of Howard's End. So, and they were the love interest there as well. So they had great chemistry together, and Emma Thompson is really great. And I think this was recorded maybe 10 years after the film, so probably for the DVD, this commentary. And so she's really good in talking about working with Anthony Hopkins, what it was like. Of course, she's much younger, and she was less experienced than Hopkins, but they developed a really good acting relationship. They tried different things together. They really enjoyed that experience, and that really comes through in this commentary. So next up, I'm going to return to my series on 1973, 50 years ago. 3 movies I'm going to talk about in my next videos, Tukobuki and The Spirit of the Beehive. These are 2 films on Sight and Sound's top 100 films list, by both the critics and the director's top 100 list. They are in the Criterion Collection. I don't own a copy. I'm not going to buy a copy because they're streaming on the Criterion channel with all the supplements. I'm saving up for the flash sale, which could come February 28th, could come March 7th. So the Criterions, as everybody knows, are very pricey, have a very pricey structure to them. So you have to, I haven't bought any Criterions in the last few weeks because I'm saving up for the flash sale. Mildred Pierce is coming out March 7th, so I'm kind of hoping that March 7th will be the flash sale day. It's only 24 hours. And the third film I'm going to talk about is Don't Look Now, which is probably a movie that I've seen more than any other movie from 1973, more times. So, and there's an out-of-print Criterion edition that runs for something like $50, $70. I know there's a Region B UHD, which I could play, and it's region free, but I would want the supplements, and I don't have a region free player. So I'm hoping there's going to be a UHD of Don't Look Now by the end of the year, because its popularity has really endured. Okay, so thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.